when you talk about doing less, what does that? What do you find you end up like cutting, or like what where do you consolidate? I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So when I talk about doing less, will be as it refers to me, it will be my personality and my behaviors. For example, I'm not just a trainer, but I'm also trying to learn other things. And for me, has been learning about trading. And trading as a thing, it's besides learning the language that it is to do that, such as it is when exercising or learning some other language, for example, um, or things you want to study in school, you go through a learning process, which can be exciting. You're thinking about the future, thinking about what it could be. And then when you start doing it, you could get caught up into trying to do too much to try to make up for the time that you weren't able to, or because you're thinking about where you will be in the future and you're trying to be there right now instead of taking your time through it. So for me, I will find that besides working in this amazing job that I have, that I love everything I do, I also try to spend extra time studying other situations like trading and more movement classes. And eventually I realized that I didn't really have much time for myself. And I wanted to get a lot done and I wanted to learn a lot within a short amount of time. And that wasn't the best situation. Now, it doesn't mean that to avoid it, I actually went through it and I feel like I learned a lot. Like it's getting to a point that now I'm using that as my second part of income. Now I have my training facility in which I'm not just performing stuff to help people improve their spine positioning, but also their muscles, the tendons, body work, healing stuff, and now applying movement as well, in addition to other therapies. And yeah, the more I realized that I was doing too much and didn't allow the body to comprehend, or my own psyche to go about it little by little. This will also show up in my training. So before, I would try to do a lot. I would try to, oh, okay, today I want to improve your spine. I want your ankles to feel better, elbows to feel better, whatever it is to feel better. And I would put a whole list of everything I wanted to do with the person. And when it comes to time, one, I either try to do that and you just felt like everything was happening, rushed, nothing was really being digested. Or two, I will find myself in a situation that we're dealing with human beings who they're not always gonna be ready to go, or not everything's gonna be as you expect. You know, there's gonna be an emotional situation, family situation, or something happened that they got sick or they got injured. And yeah, now it's about trying to understand why was I doing too much, and instead of looking at it in a negative way, instead I'm trying to see how can I grow from it by doing less. So let's say in relation to trading, which is a psychological thing, I will find myself that I would do something good, and then I would think in my head, hey, maybe there's another chance for me to go in there and try to get more. And usually you get this little rush or this adrenaline of, hey, I just succeeded, I'm gonna succeed again. And then you go and you fail. And sometimes you don't even see the failure and you try to keep going and then you keep failing more. Or you can fail, take a step back and digest and see, hey, if I hadn't done that, I would have had everything I gained. Or maybe I could have just lost a little bit, but I learned my lesson. And it's so easy for me to say it, but it wasn't just about saying it or thinking. Instead, I had to realize that I had to journal it. And then I understood how that was also transferring to my training, in which now with people, even though it may seem a little repetitive, I do want you to go through the repetitions. I do want you to spend time doing what we're doing. And I'm not going to let you move out of this thing that makes you comfortable because you don't get it, just because you may feel like you're not getting anything from it, because nothing's going to happen right away. It's going to take a little bit of time. This could be 1 minute. For some people, it could be 5 minutes. For some people, it could be 10 sessions that I'm doing the same thing. And before, I will be like, oh my God, I know so many things, dude. Like, why am I not applying all this knowledge, when in reality, it's not about all the knowledge that you have, how to apply everything, but grab the things that you feel that you want to work, and do them, learn them, do them again, do them right, play with them, and start to actually involve more things into it. So that will be something I've been focusing a lot more for myself,
Yeah,
and just taking a step back more often.
yeah, you're doing less to ultimately be able to do more in the future. And I'm
Mhm.
interested what I mean, it probably is very contextual, but are there certain things now, especially as you've studied like neurology and you've been applying it for a long time, are there certain things where it's like if I see there's a deficit here, maybe it's a particular visual thing, maybe it's a particular motion or whatever, but if I see a deficit here, like we're gonna do this until you've got it, and like kind of the stuff that you might have somebody spend 10 sessions on, are there some like commonalities, some kind of like consistent things
Yes.
with like these have to be there?
Yes, yes, very, very, very typical as to how I am seeing the human body and what I would like for other people to learn. I have found it to be beneficial for myself. For example, the idea of laying on your back and being able to breathe and tune out of your daily life and like what's happening. Instead, how's my heart feeling? How's my breathing feeling? And how am I doing? That'll be the first thing I have people do.
Yeah.
The second one, I also like for them to go through an idea about what it feels to weight shift, what it feels to be on one leg in front, one leg behind, both legs split apart, squatting with that. And then the second one would be how to move forward with objects through pendulum swings and other dynamics. And I like breaking them down from very simple things, such as starting in one leg in front, one leg behind, stay there for 5 minutes. And people will be surprised. They'll be like, why just standing? Like, hey, we need to know your body. I don't know who you are. I don't know what's you're going. You may find that standing makes your head hurt or standing makes your knee hurt. And I want to talk about it with you. I want to go through it with you so you can understand that this is not just about working out, but I need you to comprehend your own body and what it's telling you. For example, people will be standing with one leg in front, one leg behind, or the unilateral stance, and they'll be like, "Oh, my knee hurts," and they'll try to stop. And in my head, it's like, "Hey, why do you stop?" Or how can we make this better instead of running away from it? And little by little, they get to realize that in my sessions, it's not just about what they came to me for, but what I'm the psychology as to how they see their body and how they move their body and how we can improve that so they can do other things eventually without me.
Yeah, and that's if you don't have that and you just keep going through like I mean, your training does expose people to a lot of variety, or at least like the stuff you post on social media or the places you get people to. It's so varied, and it's obviously you're trying to solve a particular problem, or just like expose their body to positions that they're not accustomed to, loads that they're not accustomed to. Um, but
Mhm.
without what you just laid out, then almost none of that stuff is really that useful. Like they could be doing it and they will see some like benefit, but it's like you need them to tap into the process, into their processes first. And if that's not there, then yeah, you can probably like without somebody being conscious and intentional with knowing how they can feel nuance in their body and how they could realize that, oh, I actually wasn't feeling this part of my hip, or oh, I realized I was holding something so tight that it wasn't allowing my breath to hang out. And maybe that was tied to my inability to let go of the day or my inability to dissociate from the past or the future, even like where's the present. If you can start to work them
Mhm.
in the present, then you get to, yeah, get them to now plan out a movement sequence where there is some thought or some like subconscious calculation of like, okay, by the time I throw this thing over here, then I need to go reach this cone. How am I going to make that transition? And that is putting the body in a position to have to figure things out on a level that you couldn't cue them to do, really. Um,
Mhm.
and in order for that process to occur, they can't be in their head about, okay, what should I do? Um, so
Exactly.
that makes a lot of sense, and it's very much the same kind of thing where I'm at, and I think it's something where I do notice a tendency because again, there's so much that I could be doing, and day to day, the person's coming in with a different body. I'm coming in with a different like mindset almost, and it's very easy for me to be like, okay, let's add more variation, or let's challenge you in a different way. And I think there's value in being like, I know we've done this before a bunch of times, and there are certain drills that I keep coming back to for that reason, but we're really going to make sure that you can like hold your eyes over to the right with your head still for 20 seconds and not feel dizzy or not be able to lose your focus. And like
Mhm.
until we have that, like I don't really want to do that much else. And I think that's a tough skill and art as a coach to develop, to know when to hold somebody back versus when to push more or kind of add more into the picture. To um, You always want to encourage like the playful, curious, like let's figure some things out mindset in somebody. But at a certain point, you have to like realize, okay, this thing, I'm bad at it. I just need to do this. Kind of sucks. It's not like
Mhm.
I can't even make it that fun. I just need to get good at it, and then fun will come. And sometimes in those drills, though, is what you will actually pick up small little details of yourself that you wouldn't have picked up when you're doing something new. Like if I'm doing some kind of ankle motion, like for
Mhm.
the 10th time, it's my 10th session doing this one ankle motion for 50 reps. The 10th or the ninth and the 10th time, I might pick up something where like, oh yeah, my toe kind of like is holding me back here, and if I kind of let go of that, that changes how my ankle contracts. So
Yes.
there's a lot of value in spending time here, and that's, I think, one of the nice things about the move med drills is that every time you lay under the weight, it's again a different body, and you got to kind of figure out how your body's responding, and see, can you achieve maybe a degree of extension and expression of your breath that you haven't previously. Can you PR how good it feels, or is it just a matter of wow, I'm not as good as I was, so maybe I should spend some more time doing this because I haven't done it in a while. So having
Mhm.
those like reference points of kind of the low level basic fundamental drills like kettle feet or whatever, coming back to those, yeah, I think that's huge. I
Oh
was,
yeah, that is exactly one of the things that I'm noticing because just like you're mentioning, spending more time, you can learn more things. And just as we go back into movement, for me, what I've been doing lately after going through the cert is also trying to take a step back and understand why a lot of the language that Nate was using or you're using through the training, I was not able to get it, right? Because it's not about if I'm smart or if I or if I know the book, but what do they mean? Because when you guys talk, you guys don't talk just through science, but actually through feelings and sensations that if you have not developed or spent time doing it, it's just you're just guessing, doing guesswork. So I've been going through even the basics of the mewing course. And we're doing them through the whole month with everyone. So they're able to understand it over and over and over every session. If you think about it, it doesn't take that much time. You can do 30 seconds, 4 movements, maybe you're gonna get 2 minutes, 3 minutes worth of something, and you learn, and then you apply every session you have with your coach, or just at your home, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It gets a huge amount of job done rather than getting 1 full hour of everything happening and waiting until the next week. So I've been instilling that into everyone I work with.
I was just about to ask Johnny
So
about because the first time we had him on the pod, he had not done like the certification process that we had laid out because we just didn't have it at that point, and you went through it, and I was curious kind of like how that process helped clarify things for you, Johnny, and kind of what did you like about it, and as a whole.
yeah. Well, what I like about it is that I was able to understand that there's a lot more complexity in addition to the levels that I truly was aware of it, but I wasn't able to experience it. So we'll go through some of the mewing course drills, but they will have more detail. And then it'll be about, all right, you're learning this thing, but if you haven't really spent time doing them, uh, you're gonna have a tough time. So from my experience, I felt like I never really did enough work, and up until this day, I'm trying to do more work on trying to learn, experience, and be able to communicate this in a better way. Because in the course, you guys don't just go about recovery of the body, but there's a lot of information to know about how to use other tools, the bands, the positioning, the eye level, and also the language that you guys were using as it relates to these movements. It wasn't such about tensing up the body or flexing something, but there has to be a balance between this internal pressure, which it was another language I was never really aware of it. Internal pressure and parasympathetic, right? One thing is saying, hey, I'm training my parasympathetic system, but another way is how is my parasympathetic feeling and how I'm able to connect those two in what we're doing. So I feel like it was very rewarding. There's a lot to learn. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I'm really excited for another certification. But I just feel like I want some time to get better and digest it some more.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, and it seems like you're doing a great job of just uploading what you've taken from that into your own model of how you just look at somebody and assess, and then you tie in a lot of like dynamic stuff. And I think it's an interesting kind of contrast between some of the more static positionings we do, and then when you're dynamic, it's kind of a different ball game. You're not as much focused on the sensation. It's more, still feeling your body, but how can I now move in a fluid way? And when you see like some of the more dynamic versions of training online and stuff, Johnny, like um where do you think sometimes, or how do you blend like the structure, the pressure awareness with somebody doing a dynamic motion? Is it kind of where you just like don't even have them worry about it while they're moving, or how do you kind of blend the two with your approach?
Yeah, so I do like to not separate them, but give each of them their own specific time. So what I mean by that is, just to give you an example of my sessions, I will have a person come in, besides asking them what they're doing and giving them something to be afraid about and see how they react, which is another little tip I learned from Nate, and I really enjoy it. Then I will start taking them through a process of first waking up their body, taking them through a movement or movements that require them to think, and then we'll apply dynamics in which I will try to incorporate positions or shapes that we expose the body through at the beginning of the session on it. So to give an example, there is one of the positions that we have learned from movement course, that I learned from movement course, was with the legs separated, working on the midline, connecting the inside of the legs, which it will resemble a little bit more of a triangular position for basketball. So after having the person go through that, I will have them also do any exercise that will resemble that position and allow them to explore, squatting through it, breathing through it, rotating through it. And since the body has, or the person, I don't know why I mentioned the body, because since the person has had their time to digest the positions in a thoughtful manner and then with the challenge of weight manner, then I'll put in that dynamic setting in which I prefer doing very little cueing. For example, here's the ball, shoot it like a basketball without moving position. And I'll give them the drill. And after seeing them perform, I'll ask them a question like, do you feel like you understand and you know what you're doing now? And if they say yeah, then I will add a detail. But in dynamic settings, I like to keep it a little bit more simple. Three things to be mindful about, and then do your own thing. Let me see how you express movement.
I dig that. I do have a curiosity with your previous experience doing so many vision exercises, or like Z health centric programming with regard to the eyes, and then you applying it to dynamics. What is your how do you experience it being different now that you've done a number of the banded exercises, and we've kind of in the same way that you're intending to build the eyes in, or their acuity or their participation in an action through those exercises, do you feel like you've done something to that effect by learning how to build more muscle in the back of your head and your scalp?
Oh, yes. One of the things that we noticed on myself and even other people is our ability to recognize the back of our head and neck and all those regions, and how to keep it more stable as we use our eyes, which it could be very easy to go a rotation or just kind of tilt or lift the shoulders because the body hasn't really developed that tonicity on the backside. So for me, it was about, okay, we learned this drill in which we're placing the band in different areas of our back and head. And my questions would be, okay, how does it feel being here for a long period of time? what happens if I move my eye positions, and I will get my own feedback from my brain and body into that. And I will realize how that goes to be beneficial for others. And then as I see more people and apply it more, I will have them instruct, looking at different positions, holding that and applying it for motion. So I do find it to be very beneficial as it relates to awareness and control.
Do you find, Johnny, that you almost stretch somebody's visual field in a way, and there can be, as they like explore these ranges of motion in their body in a dynamic context, that their perception of how they like the perception of space from their visual system is different?
Oh, yes, big time. A lot of people will start to notice how the vision is not just here as if we're wearing glasses, but they're able to have a little bit more sense of openness and awareness, even more with skin traction and this other advanced stuff. So yes, I have found that.
Have you seen any improvement in people's? Well, I have a couple questions to this effect, but regarding like tinnitus, do you have any clients that have ringing in the ear or like ear infection issues that have improved?
I have not dealt with people who have tinnitus or ear infections yet.
Okay, something to pay attention to, that the vagus stuff, a lot of your improvement, the side neck, in a simple way as we can put it, just getting this to reinforce better blood flow and reinforce better fullness. That's going to play a huge role into it. It did for me, and it does for I think almost any person that we put it to. But to that effect, have you noticed? Do you do any heart rate variability stuff? Do you do any like testing with that, or do any of your clients do that?
So I've been recently getting into checking people's heart 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 blood heart rate pressure, heart blood pressure, and but we haven't really exposed it to the point that we're measuring it constantly through the session. I do have one or two hypertension clients who were keeping track of it, and they tell me a lot through their watch as to when things are going up, when things are going low, and if anything, we work more on managing it to an extent.
Right. Well, we have some things we're going to put to work. At least Dave and I are going to start to test some, and he's going to test it more with his clients. The relationship between your vagus nerve and heart rate variability, it's kind of one and the same. Respective changes in your heart rate variability are often seen and shown or mirrored in your vagus. That is to say, like upregulation of blood flow in your vagus or improved tolerance to vagal instability, like less dizziness, less lightheadedness, those kinds of things while you're in motion or while you're exercising and getting excited. That is almost the same metric that most people qualify heart rate variability through. So we're going to start to show that, and this is an argument we can make without yet being able to demonstrate many forms of side movement, because we're, I think, one of the few really emphasizing what parts of the neck need to develop. But I'm emphatic to say that essentially just building this framework of the neck, the side neck behind the SCM and into the ear, translates to a lot of depreciated ear issues, a lot of improved balance issues or balance framework. And then your visual field, being able to rely on your vestibular system better is something that we're going to start to emphasize. So I'm just interested to see it. And I figured, sorry, with the bouncing back and forth, my computer decided to reboot halfway through that question I asked you. But you do some really cool stuff, and the dynamic application for visual stuff is very rare to be seen. It's not something that a lot of people do, especially in visual training. So the fact that you're playing into the dynamics that everyone's going to be doing in your group, or they're already wanting to do, and you're making it make more sense for their nervous system. I'm just interested to see how that plays over, because I know you pay so much attention. I guess I'm just framing the question for people who are not familiar with why I asked them.
No, and I feel like you'll be very interested, because if you think about it, I'm just a baby in movement after a certification. So as I get to apply it more, I'll be able to gather more data. But one of the things that they are finding for sure is not just their awareness as to their vestibular system, but what is this thing called midline that we've been referring to, and how to connect them both, so they don't feel like they have to feel that they have to be uncomfortable in the moment, but they have something to rely on with it.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
kind of
to see your clever variations of things that we went over, because I'll open a post and I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I see he's messing around with something we did, and it's not to say you're doing it remotely wrong or in a way that I don't like. It's exciting to see it, and I'm stoked to see the creativity with it. So it's always like, because I'm not super familiar with how you've learned a lot of your dynamic motion with your previous experience, my own like appreciation for emotion might be different. And then when I see you doing or making it make more sense through midline, I'm like, this is exactly what I was wishing I could see from those other pages. So it makes me stoked. I don't know.
Yeah, because something I was mentioning to Ben just a while ago is how I've learned from many different systems, from many different great people. And at some point, I had to digest it for myself and figure out how to do it and what is my vision as it goes to training. So I'm pretty sure as time goes by, I'm able to apply more. It should evolve a little bit into, not to say better, but improved versions as to all these things that I'm applying. And the idea of neurology was one of the main things that started me into understanding the eyes, the ears, the stability system. The one thing is looking at it through the book and pictures and just eye stuff. And another thing is taking a little more time to feel. So it's been huge as it gets to that for me.
Introducing our newest platform, the 5 for 5 membership. Access a library of follow-along MoveMed workouts, all with the format of 5 exercises for 5 minutes each, with each 5 for 5 having a different focus, such as seated lower body exercises, mewing, and much more. Along with access to this exclusive content, you'll also be able to join live online classes ran by MoveMed coaches offered multiple times a week in both English and Spanish. The best part is the price, just $25 a month, but as a Black Friday special, you can lock in your subscription for just $20 a month for the entire length of your membership by using code Black Friday at checkout. Sign up at movemed.net. I was curious, Johnny, you posted recently working with somebody with scoliosis, and I think you've worked with a fair amount of scoliotic people over your
I love that.
career. And I guess like I'm kind of interested how your approach has shifted a little bit. And like one of the posts you had, they were sitting on the plyo ball, warming the egg, and then you were also having them do tongue exercise. Could you break down essentially why that would be important for somebody with scoliosis to kind of play with their mouth and their pelvic floor? Like they're working on their spine. What's up with that stuff?
Oh, of course, of course. So pelvic floor, I'm seeing it as one of the foundations as for people or for all these root nerves to continue growing through down to the legs. This specific person that you may be talking about, she has scoliosis, sciatica, tingling down the legs, and many other things that allow me to think, okay, if I just work with muscles into making them stronger over and over and over, um, it's this may not actually refer to the sciatic nerve pressure. This may not actually refer to their stress system or how this person's leg are feeling. So one of the reasons I was applying warming up the egg was to give her more sense as to her pelvic floor and some of the cues that we add through this breathing for her to start gaining awareness and sensation of what is sitting with all these areas being involved. Whenever she sits, she will have pain. Standing will be very difficult. She will have to take pain pills. So in my head, I was okay. How can I reverse to or regress to something a little bit more static and allow her to comprehend her pelvic floor, create some pressure, some space, and her diaphragms, to which when I was thinking about that drill, I was like, oh, this is great, right? So in my head was, how can I improve her just a little bit? it may not be that this could solve her scoliosis, but or maybe it does, because if you think about it, you're sitting on the structure that you can feel your imbalance. And if you're able to feel your imbalance, the next thing you can do is something about it. So in my brain, it goes as to how can I create this awareness? How is this beneficial? Getting to do it. And then as this person starts communicating, oh, I feel how my belly button is twisted right and how this side is coming up. And that person starts understanding how to mold themselves better around it. This also translated into her walking. Now she's able to stand straighter. Why? Because the pelvis has more awareness, has space. She has less pain. She was jogging the other day. She hasn't moved or jogged or run in like 5 years. She's also a physical therapist, well known in her field. So it's been humbling for her. She mentions to me, humbling for me, because I'm throwing a lot of stuff that she feels that maybe it's not important or that she was never experienced. So it's quite an interesting relationship I have with her. A lot of appreciation. She seems to be happy with the training. So that was one of the reasons I did that drill. If nobody has ever tried it, I recommend to try it, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna find other people are doing it. But doing the drill for many minutes and recognizing your own body, I feel it's only step one. And then the next one I had was band feedbacks onto her body and structure. Now, there's many ways we can use band feedbacks. We can fight him, we can not fight him, we can let him do what they're doing. I was trying to apply movement techniques into this one for this person to associate her brain and her body through these forces and how to achieve a path of least resistance. And as that was happening, I was giving her a specific task, or we could call it a drill. Like, all right, you're here, move this leg up and down many times, and then do the other side. So those were my thought patterns behind it, and we still apply those drills. And yeah, it's all about the sensory perception of their bodies for me in that.
Sounds like what you're doing is going from, if I can kind of two-dimensionalize what you did before, uh, observing the anatomy trains lines, or like the fascial lines in motion, and now where you observe them more as like a end all be all, now you're relating them to the midline, or relating them to the sensory experience, so that there's not so much attention to how they look or attention to how they're performing outside of, does this feel good? Can I improve on this? Or is there something that's not safe here? And why is it that I'm feeling panic? Or why is it that I'm feeling rushed through something that shouldn't feel anything more than I'm moving a ball or I'm moving my body?
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely reading my mind on that. So one of the reasons for that is that I have it doesn't really make it one of the main things, but I have a psychology degree, which I always wanted to use it. One of my thoughts was, I love people. I really like their brains, how they go about it. And as I have many chats with you and many experiences, I started to realize that this is a conversation therapeutic thing for a human being if they're able to understand how they feel themselves with something, what is threat. Am I a person who flees from the situation? Do I want to try to work the problem, or do I want to try to avoid the problem? So I've been using a lot of these concepts in conjunction with my training.
So I know that you're surrounded by a lot of different variations of fitness and exercise, and there's almost I think on both sides of the country. So where I am and where you are, we have this kind of, for lack of a better word, like a live, laugh, love fitness community. And they bring to the table like a lot of, I want for you to feel this way, but we're not going to contextualize the feeling. We're just going to like pet your back and stroke your ego through the experience. And what I want to kind of distinguish, I think that there's a huge parallel between feeling in your body and creating emotions, or the experience of emotions. But at the same time, having them be the same thing is what's taking away the substance in interactions and the substance of people's like social interactions, because well, whatever, I won't get into it. question for you is, when you're watching a lot of these people come into the gym, and you're creating kind of more of a sensory, a physically sensory, not just like foo-foo, like we want to just be happy, we want to put the smile on your face, and no matter what's going on in your life, I know we're just gonna we're gonna breathe like that, and we're those kinds of things. So people are excited, but they're not really coherent. Do you notice that there's a translation, like when you put them into the fire of, you're gonna feel this, I want for you to be communicative, I want for you to understand to your best ability, I'm here to help you understand you, and so you help them through the hard part. Do you feel those people are oftentimes like surprised by how much sensation and how much like connection with their body is missing?
Yes, yes, because in a way they're realizing on who they are as people in these realms of taking care of their health, and how they either put all their work onto someone else instead of them being present in what they're doing, or looking for the quick, easy thing, uh, in someone who would lie to them or just say what they want to hear, instead of someone who, will be happy, will be okay with telling the truth in an effort for them to grow together. So yes, I have found that.
Yeah, it's interesting how those conversations sometimes come up in the context of how they responded to one of the drills, or just something that you've asked them to do. Whether that's okay, I want you just to hang out in this kind of split squat for a set amount of time, or for some people it's okay, I want you to like look in a particular direction, and they'll realize like, oh wow, my body goes into like a different state when I turn my body a certain way, or when I try to focus on a certain area. And just being able to like kind of step back and be like, okay, like take a break, relax, and then just kind of talk through the experience. And it is helpful to have kind of gone through some of that yourself, to kind of understand like, oh yeah, like when I used to do this drill, like my body did not feel at ease, and I kind of know what it's like to go from that point to, okay, I can do this comfortably, and maybe it's still hard, but I don't at all need to ramp myself up nearly as much as I used to. And that's essentially what you kind of want people to do, is like settle into what they're doing and be able to do it at a sustainable level of nervous system upregulation, I guess you could say. A sustainable level of sympathetic with, of course, the parasympathetic balance. When we worked together, we worked a fair amount on like my feet and my ankles, because they've always been a problem. But it was kind of funny because you had like the exact opposite like foot structure. You had like self-defined flat feet, whereas I had more like the higher arch structure. And it's kind of weird to train the other side, because you're like, I have no idea what that feels like, but I know what I'm like my structure is like, and okay, how do I correspond that? As you've been working on your feet and ankles and stuff, like what have you found are the kind of drills, the kind of things that like make your feet, your ankles happy, essentially? What's the kind of stuff that is good for flat feet, if you can generalize that much?
Yeah. So as it gets to flat feet, I think is one, understanding my boundaries, my limits, and how to progress. For example, if you have flat feet and let's say you do jump rope, a jumping mechanic could be a little bit challenging. If you could do it, let's say every day as many as you can, eventually your body will break down. So for me, it's been about understanding the balance as to how it's too much, how it's too little. A few things that I really enjoy with my feet is understanding the sense of pressure and how to feel my feet fuller with blood and skin as to what I'm standing on instead of on my bones. So such drills such as the kettle feet drills or plyo balls under the heels will allow you to understand how to start applying pressure from your bones, from your muscles and skin, rather than putting so much of just your bone on it. So if you're able to develop more tonicity on your foot and get some movement drills for it too, it will help out a lot. Once you comprehend how to stand on your feet, then the ideas of bouncing, I really like bouncing. As when I go through bouncing, I'm thinking how can it feel effortless and not stiff? Because if I'm stiff, obviously I won't be able to bounce, and I'll feel like my ankles are hurting, my calves are working too much. I want to find that ability to stay relaxed in the motion and be able to do something for a long period of time without feeling any negative feedback at the end. Yeah.
And would you say that, like, again, speaking for somebody who doesn't have like that flatter side of foot, what kind of like discomforts do you usually find people have when they tend to collapse and not really engage, I guess, or have that tonicity to the foot?
Yeah. If they don't have tendency to Philadelphia, it'll be the arch. They will have this dull ache sensation, and they're gonna try to massage it and a little bit too much instead of actually giving it what it needs, which would be support and a better structure instead of forming the arch, right, through the typical grip the toes and pull everything up. How can you use other areas of your foot to drive the arch? So that's been very helpful for me learning how to use my heel. I before it was funny because I would even mention this, I believe, to Nathan. When I would see his heel working his way up to the Achilles, does that look like a foot? But when I looked at mine, it looked like my heel was squished, smushed, and everything was pulling up to my Achilles. There was never really any give on it. So that's been something that really helped me a lot too with it.
I'm noticing just watching you talk, your shoulders look heavier. There's some degree of, uh, yeah, there's some degree of
Yeah,
fullness that's not being manufactured anymore.
I've been working a lot with the breath belt here at this rib level, and then the balls in between, and then just working out with it, like doing squats, um, picking up dumbbells halfway, doing a slight press, doing some wrist. I don't know. I'm trying to figure more things to do it and have fun with it to the point that I'm not just in a static position, but how can my brain understand how to do it is in movement? Oh, so maybe that will fill a little bit of the gap as to how I get people into motion. Sometimes I keep doing these movement drills throughout the strength pattern. So that's another thing I'm adding in the training.
Wait, so I just want to correlate. I mean, the thing that someone posted recently about how they understood movement was core temperature regulation, and everything factors into that same principle of if you can manage your consistency of core temperature, then you can flush your whole system with the same feeling of heat. You're more than likely to have some degree of stability or control through that feedback system. Um, when we talk about the core and we talk about bracing, that's something that a lot of people talk about. There's like a don't flex to brace. You have to improve your breathing to be able to hold your brace, whatever it may be. The breath belt, even some of the basic teaching there is intended to be brace against the balls. And to take it a step further with respect to what we're trying to achieve, have you noticed that by way of creating that like pressure displacement that we do from lungs to diaphragm to organs, trapping that heat, when you get better and better at that, do you feel how your body kind of forms around it's not quite a pulling sensation, it's more of like an effort to saturate the sponge uh, outside to inside? Like the sponge on the inside is saturated, and the more we pump fluid or pressure into the center, it makes it easier for us to compress around the sponge and kind of like squeeze against it. I don't know if this analogy is making sense to you, but okay, cool.
It
Uh,
does, because it's almost like a balanced system that's occurring. If you're just trying to squeeze from the outside in and there's nothing on the inside, you just go like this.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure some people will hear this be called as the stomach vacuum, if you do it in a negative manner, or just the TVA activation, the abdominal retraction. And it's interesting you mentioned that because I was recently having a conversation with someone who inquired to me about why was I not teaching my clients how to pull their belly in and look very tall with ribs open. And I was saying, well, there's a time and a place. And another reason why I don't do it is because when you when you start thinking about your core, nobody was really like hunting, fighting a giraffe or fighting a tiger and being like, oh, I'm gonna brace my core and flex it up and make sure all my obliques look defined and I cannot move my rib cage or my lungs just for the ability to move. No, instead things should start to be the ability of having that pressurized, that heat, that ability of your organs to be able to move. I recognize it to be a little bit more important than what your bones are telling you in that sense.
Yeah, so how I heard that was visceral feedback is more important than biomechanical feedback.
Yes, yes, and that's one of the things that I come from a biomechanical background, so I have a lot of respect for the practice. But there will be a few situations that I had to take a step back and realize that if I want to continue with what I'm trying to do, is this this thought patterns would not fit into my idea. So I had to change and start comprehending more the core system that we're trying to develop through movement, which I felt it has not just allowed me to move without thinking about pain or stress or how I need to look, but let my body be how it's meant to be or look how it wants to look.
Yeah, yeah. I have a notion that I think might give this an easier idea for people to visualize, but imagine you're bedridden and you don't have the means to create leverages or tensions, and the only real movement you get out of your body is like talking, moving your head, slight motion of your hands. If you're going to improve from that point, are you going to go straight to TVA? Are you going to go straight to the visuals? Are you going to go to how do we check the way they look on the outside before we check the way they feel on the inside? And if in that circumstance, we're paying attention to how they feel, because if they can't feel their stuff, we have to start there. We're not going to jump into, hey, look, make this move without feeling it. We're going to try to build up that sensation prior to making it move. Why is that different for anyone else? So if
Mm-hmm.
the so on quote unquote the weakest of us or the most um, without access are committed to making their body feel through the nervous system such that they can communicate from brain to tissue. This is what I want to do. Let's do this. Why, if for them we do that, for everyone else, we're like, we expect this of you. We're not going to pay attention to how you feel. We're going to rush it into do this before you have any monikers of, can we do this for a sustainable period of time? Is this okay? Is this right? Whatever.
Yeah, yeah, no, and you just mentioned a very big truth there. If someone ever gets the opportunity to work with someone who they cannot feel their body, if you take them in through, oh, let's do this very complex corrective exercise, or let's have you catch a football, it may not be the smartest thing because you they will benefit a lot from the ability to create pressure and sensory awareness about their body before they get into things that are a little bit more complex. So it is quite foundational to an extent, being able to turn on body part and feel so you can start using
Yeah. And then you just kind of bring that awareness into their experience and how they start to interact with the external environment. And something you do a little bit too, I don't know if you're still doing it as much. I haven't seen it as much recently, but you'll like call out a letter or something and have them like say a word or something where they're having to react and respond to another human or another prompt. And can they keep moving fluidly, or maybe can they stay like rooted in the internal experience, and maybe even notice if like in that moment of like, oh, what starts with Q, like what is that tension like, and like how much are you
it.
like trying to really like force the word to come out versus like waiting for it. And I think it's an
Yes.
interesting thing to kind of play with. Are you still doing much of that?
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to, I actually do it with a lot of my clients. It all depends on where they're into. For example, I have a little soccer player who I'm working on, and for him, I'm working on how he's able to express himself a little bit louder through his diaphragm because he is a captain of his team, but his voice is very soft, in which I don't have anything against soft voices, but if you're going to have to be a leader or a captain of a team, I expect you to have a loud voice and be able to tell me what to do without having to think about it twice. In addition to that, I expect you to recognize different cues that we can use as our language so their team doesn't know. For example, you're going to run to this cone. We're going to call this cone A, and every time you run to it, you need to tell me a letter that's a word that starts with the next letter. So this way, they start working on their memory, their ability to think fast, react, and as a trainer or as a coach, I'm able to understand their experience and see, just like you mentioned, are they shrugging the shoulders? Are they thinking of? Are they stopping the motion that they need to do? Or are they looking to their mom? Are they checking on their phone? Like, how is it that they react to these complex things? Or are they able to stay focused? If you're able to stay focused and you keep working hard at it, I'll give you the reward. Fun stuff to do.
Training, that's neurofeedback kind of stuff. When I was young, I played games with my brain, kind of, where they were electrode based. They would connect me to the screen. It's just called neurofeedback, where um, like if you wear a watch, that's biofeedback. Neurofeedback is just paying attention to the neurological signal or the brain signaling relative the effort you're having. So I would have some attention to, like, I was playing Pac-Man without my hands, and it would be like
Oh,
attached to my head.
whoa,
Yeah,
pretty cool.
as a
I'm
little
pretty
kid.
sure we can
And
do that now in technology.
no, you can find some places. They're way more advanced than they were. I mean, this is literally 20 years ago. It's wild to say.
Yeah, yeah, pretty sure we're ahead of that.
But I think the stuff that
That's
allows
what.
for your brain to multitask or juggle thoughts, like your ability to
Mhm.
perceive that maybe sometimes things are not going to be stable, and the only way to abide the circumstantial chaos is to kind of like ride that wave. And going with the flow is a nice way of saying things are going to be nice if you pretend they are. But I think one of the main things that a lot of people don't become aware of is that if there's a tide that's flowing against you, that's taking away your ability to brace, or taking your ability to like self-perceive what's going on, then you're going to need to ebb. You're going to need to resist the circumstance and learn how to brace against those and effectively keep your focus. And when you're tasking people with, hey, I want you to look over here, you're doing this activity, and then you're also saying these things when I shout out these calls, you're giving them effectively a bunch of things to ebb against, because while they're doing their task, there's going to be a number of factors that are like, I don't know if I can do this, or the processing may be a little bit too sluggish, or maybe it be resistive. And then they're going to need to learn how to be like, if we focus on these primary things that he's taught me, I can keep myself clear where I'm not getting distracted by all the self-hate talk, so to speak, the smack talk that I'm putting in my back channels. And
Big
honestly,
time.
I think just in the same way I was doing neurofeedback, but in a way more social setting, that is, you're interacting with a lot of stress factors, not just trying to like orient around something that's not physical or sensory. Sorry, my ears. You're creating a bunch of like humanizing and like maturity creating elements for people to nurture themselves into a more coherent sense of themselves, without having to say, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is where I am. All all of it is sensory, and how they qualify how they feel in the moment, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, all of it is sensory, and it will give him a little bit more of a taste as to what it is to do a complex thing. So one of the things that we were talking with Ben is how there's these things that are foundational that I take people through. If they don't work through it, I make sure they work at it at the gym until they get it. So patience and doing a lot of reps. And then I will start applying the neurological drills. So just in case some people see it and they're like, oh, why is he always doing with people? It started simple. And then I added the ball to toe to the wall. And then, all right, you're able to do that. Now let's have you also look to the side every now and then. I'm going to put up a few fingers. I want you to tell me times two, what is the number at a quick response? So, and what they're noticing from this is that a lot of the pain that they have from being in a position, sometimes it was in their own brain overthinking or stressing about it instead of being distracted or do something else that will take them away from that. Because pain is not just, oh, I injured and cut myself, but when it goes to nerves, nerve sensations, sometimes your brain has been hardwired into
Yeah.
that feedback of pain all the time that you're not able to get away from. And if I'm able to give you a taste of what it is not being pain for a minute in a situation or doing a lot of movements. Eventually, my goal is for you to feel comfortable with your own body and to say, all right, I'm going to start challenging myself by adding something else into my schedule. A lot of people around here do tennis or they go golfing, they go swimming. And I'm very happy to know that they're able to do that after some time of training and that they feel good. That's all I would like.
Yeah, a lot of the time, as you were saying, the placebo effort of regulating your feeling, um, stuff gets stuck in your brain because it's a perception or a prediction or an anticipation, even if it's not like in the flesh. Um, and there's a Hindu term to describe that called samsara. Yeah, samskara. I always say it wrong, dude. It's scars beneath the surface of the skin, and so I always add scar if it. I don't know. Excuse me for saying it incorrectly. This is something that I literally always have an issue with. Uh, Dyslexia for the win, if that's that.
Oh, nice.
We're getting fixated on that pain. The way I look at it, literally just the literary of pain is nociception. So perception, I just literally I cut off perception and I write no in front of it, and it's like almost it's almost like the state of not feeling what's actually going on. Uh, and I kind of look at it as a nociception as being not real perception, in that
Mm-hmm.
because of how loud and reactive it is, it doesn't give us a clear like magnifying glass on the issue. It gives us a magnifying glass on a state wherein we can react or get our heart rate up, or because there may be a need. If you do get hurt and there's a threat present, there may be a need to upregulate and fight that threat or run from that threat. And the very nature of pain is similar to many adrenal responses, is to get you to pay attention to a threat that you may not see, feel, or know about yet, and you need to like flip a switch. So I think that one of the ways that you can really heal a brain is, as you said, giving someone an opportunity to counter orient their pain and perceive that nociception as not very clear, not real perception, and allowing for them the time or circumstance to perceive it in a clear or uh, more real or tangible fashion.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes you're just stuck in that thought and that pattern, and you're not aware that you can get out of it. And if we can give them that little piece of the puzzle that they can figure out, it's going to do a lot. That's how I work with a lot of people. Sometimes I don't have all the answers, but I'm just going to start with how can I get you to feel better for a second, maybe 2 minutes, an hour, a day, and eventually I want you to keep track as to how much more good days that you have than days that you find it to be negative. And that way you can start seeing how your body's improving in the long term instead of just like right now how I'm feeling.
Smart.
Yeah, everything's relative.
I think you got to go, Johnny. You got someone there?
Yeah. Yeah, I got my amazing client. Hey Sophia, bring it in.
Johnny, you got a Black
Yeah, I got
Friday
my
sale on sessions at Connective. You want to talk about that for
yes.
a second?
Yes, thank you guys. So I got a Black Friday sale, guys, in which we have 50% off your assessment. And in addition to that, you'll be able to give another assessment to someone else. This could be your friend, your family. This assessment is not happening both at the same time. If you buy it, you can schedule it for your friend or family member or whoever you want it. for the same day, another time, or another day. This all goes until that is over. And in addition to that, we have a 20% discount of the first package of your choice. That's what for all new clients.
Good stuff, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you stopping by and dropping some wisdom, man.
Thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Always
Thank
great
you
to
for
see you.
having me, guys. Always a good time. Always a good time.